A few weeks ago, Donald Trump said the conflict with Iran would be resolved in 4 to 6 weeks. He even said oil and power would follow. But here is what actually happened in those 6 weeks. America's image took a serious hit by the so-called idea that it brings democracy and freedom Iran. And the second thing that happened? Israel's victim card, as I call it in my lectures, is finally running out. For years, the story sold to the American public was simple. Israel is a small country just trying to survive in a dangerous neighborhood, and Iran is the villain. Israel has a right to exist, and that is true. Israel does have a right to exist. But the question my students always ask me is, at what cost to others? Hello, I'm Professor Walter from the University of California, Berkeley. Right after the US-Iran ceasefire, Prime Minister Netanyahu did something extraordinary and shameful. Lebanon had already joined the ceasefire. The guns were supposed to be quiet. And within 10 minutes, Netanyahu dropped 100 bombs on Lebanon and caused over 1,000 casualties of civilians. Then he walked to a podium and said publicly, "Ceasefire or no ceasefire, we will do what we think is right. We will keep attacking no matter what." American agreed with Iran, our country, our rule. Now, I have been teaching foreign policy for over 20 years. I have never seen an ally of the United States speak this openly about ignoring a peace agreement. And the reaction inside America, even Trump's most loyal supporters, his most influential media voices, started publicly criticizing him for backing Israel. These are the same people who helped get Trump elected, and now they are slamming him. Trump responded by insulting them on Truth Social, and Candace Owens, one of his biggest supporters, said Trump should be sent to a retirement home. That tells you everything about how bad this situation has gotten politically. Let me give you the numbers, because I am a professor and numbers matter. A new Pew Research study shows that 60% of Americans now view Israel unfavorably. That is a massive shift. 5 years ago, that number was completely different. Almost 10%, Spain, France, the UK, and Australia, America's closest allies, are now openly criticizing both Trump and Israeli government policy. Senator Bernie Sanders has introduced a bill in the U.S. Congress to block military aid to Israel. These are not fringe movements. These are mainstream political developments happening right now. Now, let me get into what I consider the most alarming legal development of this entire conflict. On March 30th, 2026, the Israeli parliament passed a new law. Under this law, Palestinians convicted in Israeli military courts can now be executed for acts labeled as terrorism. And here is the part that should concern every human rights lawyer in this room. Throwing a stone or shouting a slogan can be classified as terrorism under Israeli military law. The default sentence under this new law is death. Life imprisonment is now the exception. And this law only applies to Palestinians, not to Israeli citizens. The method of execution? Will hanging. You must carry out the sentence within 90 days. Family visits and legal access are severely restricted. The United Nations Human Rights Council immediately called this racial discrimination and apartheid and demanded it be repealed. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch called it deeply discriminatory. Even Israel's own Association for Civil Rights filed a petition against it in Israel's Supreme Court, calling it unconstitutional. I want you to sit with that for a moment, because Israel's own civil rights lawyers are fighting this law in court, and soon a good news will come out. Here is something I explain to my students every semester when we talk about accountability in war. When Nazi Germany committed its atrocities in World War II, they worked hard to hide what they were doing. The world only found out the full scale of the Holocaust after the war ended. Israel's military, the IDF, is different. Their soldiers film themselves. They post it themselves from their own social media accounts. because they believe there will be no consequences. And some of what has been documented is deeply disturbing. Soldiers filming themselves destroying Palestinian homes as gifts for their wives. Soldiers wearing clothes taken from Palestinian women. Soldiers celebrating Jewish holidays in homes they forcibly occupied. According to a report from Palestinian TV, Israeli soldiers tortured a 1-year-old child in front of his father in an attempt to force a confession. Medical reports described burns from cigarettes and puncture wounds. A Guardian report found that from 2020 to today, Israel has not prosecuted a single one of its citizens for the killing of Palestinian civilians in the occupied West Bank. Not a single prosecution. One statistic I use in my human rights law class that always shocks my students. Right now, approximately 350 to 360 Palestinian children are being held in special Israeli military detention facilities in the occupied West Bank. Many of them have no charges and no trial. Rights organizations describe it as a well-oiled system of control and abuse. Torture and detention of children without trial are clear violations of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. A 17-year-old Palestinian was held for 6 months, tortured so severely and denied food so consistently that he died from his injuries. Israeli authorities held his body for an additional year and never officially told the family the cause of death. These are not allegations from hostile sources. These come from Israeli rights organizations themselves. What is happening in Lebanon follows the exact same pattern we saw in Gaza, Israel's defense minister stated publicly on March 22, 2026 that on the Prime Minister's direct orders, the IDF has begun the complete destruction of Lebanese villages near the border to create a buffer zone. The very next day, Israel's far-right finance minister said in a radio interview that the bombing of Lebanon represents a new reality and that it should only end when Israel's borders expand. The Lebanese Ministry of Health reports over 1,300 deaths since March. The World Health Organization has documented at least 75 attacks on healthcare facilities. Doctors and medical workers are specifically targeted. Over 1 million Lebanese civilians have been forced from their homes. They are living in tents, the same image we saw in Gaza. The United Nations Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese presented a report in Geneva recently. Her conclusion was sharp and direct. Torture has become state doctrine in Israel, Germany, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, Italy, Finland, Switzerland. The European nations that have historically been very cautious on this issue are now publicly condemning Israeli government actions. The International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu in 2024. He has not been arrested yet, but the legal net is tightening. As I always tell my students, history does not forgive silence, and the world is running out of excuses for staying quiet.
Before I close, I want to be very clear about something, because this is important. Criticizing the Israeli government and its military policies is not the same as being against Jewish people. This is a distinction that matters enormously. Many Jewish people, including many Israelis, are actively protesting Netanyahu and these policies right now. So let me summarize what my lecture today was really about. The political cover that Israel has enjoyed, particularly from the United States, is cracking down. American public opinion has shifted. America's allies have shifted. And even some of Trump's closest supporters have shifted.